A new study finds that pandemic-era eviction moratoriums actually increased racial discrimination. Now, is that truly the case? I don't think so. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic for you today, and it goes over issues that people are having with the whole eviction moratoriums. So, according to a recent study, they say that racial discrimination increased, by the eviction moratoriums being put into place. Okay, so they said that landlords were discriminating against people based upon their race because they were unable to evict the people, I guess they're trying to say. So landlords were becoming more picky with those tenants that they were choosing, right? Now, I don't think that was the case at all. I think that this had more to do with landlords having to choose tenants who were more credit worthy, who were better tenants overall, right? And it just so happens that with the statistics, the way they lined up, that certain racial groups were less likely to be rented to due to the fact that they fell into the less credit worthy, less likely to pay lower income classes. Okay, so I don't think this is a racial issue at all, even though they're trying to paint it that way. So it's an interesting article. I'm going to go through it, just to tell you exactly what their study found, and you can make up your own decision. Okay, so before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So here's a question for the landlords out there. When the pandemic era eviction moratoriums were going on, did you tighten up your selection criteria for new tenants, knowing that if you were unable to evict those tenants, right, due to the eviction moratoriums, that you would lose a whole ton of money? Okay, I can tell you right now that I know a lot of landlords. They said, hey, we're going to need higher credit scores. We're going to need higher incomes. Instead of doing 3x of the monthly rent, it might be 4x in terms of income. We're not going to allow any tenant with evictions on their record. A lot of landlords said we're going to tighten up our criteria because we could lose everything if we put a tenant in our property and we are unable to evict them. So it is what it is, but you know what? I don't think that this is a racial issue. I think that they are trying to play it off like that. But if you really look at the numbers, it will bear the truth. Okay, so anyway, let's get into the article. This article is coming from Reason.com, and it says, new NBER study finds COVID eviction moratoria increased racial discrimination. Moratoria cause landlords to be less willing to rent to black tenants. And like I said, I don't think that landlords were less willing to rent to black tenants. I think that landlords were less willing to rent to tenants who might have been a little more risky. And it just happens that black tenants, in more cases, fell under that criteria, being a little bit more risky. So anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. A new National Bureau of Economic Research study by economists Alina Arafava, Kay Jowers, Ki Hui Hu, and Christopher Timmons finds that eviction moratoria enacted during the COVID led increased racial discrimination against black potential tenants. Here is the abstract. We provide evidence of intensified discriminatory behavior by landlords in the rental market during the eviction moratoria instituted during the COVID-19 pandemic. Using data collected from an experiment that involved more than 25,000 inquiries of landlords in the 50 largest cities in the United States in the spring and summer of 2020, our analysis shows that the implementation of an eviction moratorium significantly disadvantaged African Americans in the housing search process. A housing search model explains this result, showing that discrimination is worsened when landlords cannot evict tenants for the duration of the eviction moratorium. So basically what they're saying is that black people were disadvantaged due to the eviction moratorium, and it's obvious why. It's obvious why, because as a group, black people have lower household income. Okay, they are more likely to have less savings, lower credit scores, etc. Okay, And that's a fact. And those are things that can be worked on, that can be improved, but have nothing to do with race at the same time. So, by implying that, hey, this is somehow the landlords out there specifically targeting black people, I think it is a lie. I think it is not the truth, okay? The authors are likely to revise the study before final publication, but their results should not be surprising. Eviction moratorium make it difficult or impossible for landlords to evict tenants who default on the rent. That, in turn, leads property owners to be more wary of renting to people who are disproportionately likely to default, such as poor people. If blacks are on average poorer than whites or are more likely to default for other reasons, landlords will be more reluctant to rent to them at a time when they cannot resort to eviction to deal with default. And studies do in fact suggest black tenants are, on average, poorer than white ones and more likely to carry rental debt. And on top of that, because black people are on average poorer than white people, right? They oftentimes face eviction more often, okay? So, I'm black, okay? I have nothing against black people. I don't think the majority of landlords are out there saying, hey, we don't like black people. We don't want to rent to black people. Okay. I have black tenants. Most landlords have black tenants. Black people are more likely to rent housing. However, okay, we still need to look at it from a business perspective. We are not going to say, hey, we are going to rent to this uncredit-worthy person, regardless of their race, because we want to feel better about equality throughout the world. No, that's an easy way to go out of business, okay? Trying to, promote equality rather than doing smart business practices. So we're going to rent to people who prove that they can actually pay their bills, regardless of what their race is. So unfortunately, this will disproportionately impact black people. But like I said before, this isn't discrimination. This is more has to do with economic status than anything else. The end result is also consistent with previous studies showing that eviction moratoria and other policies that make it harder to evict delinquent tenants increase the cost and reduce the availability of housing. They are also likely to screen potential tenants more carefully, keeping out those who seem unusually likely to end up in default. Thus, while eviction moratoria and other policies benefit current tenants, they reduce the availability of housing to future ones, including current tenants wishing to move to a different location. And I am so glad that they brought that up in this article, because this is exactly what I've been talking about, okay? When they put these eviction moratoriums in place, increase the cost of business for landlords, make it more difficult for us to evict tenants, it actually hurts the tenants, okay? It hurts the tenants just as bad as it hurts the landlords, because you're reducing the amount of housing that's out there available, and you're making it much, much harder for those people who are on the bottom line, the lowest of the low income people, to find affordable housing. So, yeah, you think you're helping things and you're making things worse. This is the government right there, big government sitting there telling you, oh, if we pass this law, if we do this and that, this will help people. And the truth of the matter is, it's not helping anyone. It is making things worse. Worse for the landlord, worse for the tenant. The only one who's winning in this situation is the bureaucrats up in the government, who don't have anything to worry about, because all they got to do is keep passing their laws and making people feel better to get reelected. So yeah, this is absolute, truth when that last part right there. This doesn't necessarily prove that eviction moratoria are unjustified. If, for example, COVID-era moratoria saved lives, the resulting reduction in the availability of housing might have been worth it, but there is no good evidence that any such thing happened. The eviction moratoriums didn't work for anything. They didn't save lives. They didn't stop the spread. Everybody ended up with COVID. I got it twice, okay? It was a complete joke. You cannot stop Mother Nature. You cannot stop an illness. You know, that's the problem. The government thought, oh, well, we can solve this. No, you can't. Okay? Trying to stop a tidal wave by putting your hand up. It doesn't do anything other than maybe it'll make you feel better. Like it makes you feel like you're in control when you're really not. And you know what? We all found that out. We all found out that basically COVID was something that could not be stopped, and we had to deal with it, you know, as it went through the natural process. So the disaster really was all of the effects that the government policies that they put in place, you know, like the increased inflation by all of that stimulus and all of that money they pumped into the economy, right? We're still feeling the effects of that right now. Okay, the mental health issues from people being locked down for a long period of time, we're still feeling that right now. And there are still landlords, in particular commercial landlords, who are facing bankruptcy because of the huge changes that happened in the real estate market. So anyway, I'll put a link to the article in the description down below. Let me know what you think of this whole thing. Does the eviction moratorium cause racial discrimination?